call the meeting to order. We're gonna start off at the top, communication, Janelle.
All right, so to lead us off, we'll have our administrative team share out what's going on in the buildings. Mary, are you willing to start us off?
I am, thank you.
Come on in.
Hi, everybody. Hi, welcome. We'll start off as usual with kudos. So kudos to our staff and our parents and our families for connecting. I think this year more than ever, we're seeing those connections being made prior to conferences. Just little check-ins and status updates and things that really help us find the right path for our kiddos. Extra kudo for Marie and Maria. So Marie Grothy and Maria Rasmussen are leading our staff through the letters training. Takes a great deal of commitment and time and passion and energy and just the willingness to be teacher leaders. You know, I think it's more difficult to lead a group of peers than it is sometimes to lead strangers. So I just appreciate so much what they've been doing. Updates, we talked about family groups last month. Well, we had one and it was fantastic and there were smiles everywhere, and we got the second one coming up in just about 2 weeks. So our theme on the next one is everything's possible. Again, we're following through with those 7 mindsets that we worked on last year. So this month the kiddos are learning about 7 mindsets in their classes, and then we'll have the family group that just exemplifies everything that they're learning. We had our Title I and ECFE Parent Involvement Night with the Connected and Kind speaker. Dr. Skansen came to present to us. He's from Rocori, and he just did an excellent job. So with the help of Matt Dickhausen and Colin Wolf, we were able to record it. And then Eric also shared the slides, so we'll be getting those out to all families. Just a really powerful message about the impact of screen time on our babies, and then all the way up through adolescence. It was powerful. I hope we can get him back again and get a much larger audience, because those of us that were there were just impressed. I was like, where was that when my kids were little? You know, so many applicable things. Upcoming events, we've got student parent teacher conferences coming up on the 28th from 12 to 8 p.m. We're beginning to train our paraprofessionals on some of the tools that they'll be using with kiddos in the classroom. So we've got Cindy Ostrander and Megan Middendorf coming through us from the Ed District, and they're gonna help us out with some snap and read and co-writer tools to help our kids with literacy. Letters training continues within our district. A lot to learn, but I've been subbing in some classrooms as of late, and I've been using it, and it's really nice to be able to share what the teachers have learned and to be part of that process. You know, we have a meeting tomorrow morning for our 3rd through 5th grade teachers, and it'll be nice to have had that background of being right in the classroom with the kids, learning with them. Any questions or concerns from any of you? Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
You betcha.
All right, David.
All right, good evening. Just wanted to give you an update on some of the new classes that we have going on right now. We have our dog castle construction class, and they are building their first ever fish house. If you're familiar with what an ice castle fish house looks like, that's what they're working on. And so they have the walls up, the floor down. They're working on designing what the inside's gonna look like. And then they'll work with the Innovation Center on the outside. The plan right now is that we would keep this fish house for a while anyway, and use it maybe as a multi-purpose, with using it as a concession stand, maybe at our cross-country meets, or bringing classes out to go fishing or spearing and things. So you can see it actually if you walk by down the hallway on your way out tonight, if you wanna take a look at it. We also have in exploring the lathe class, we purchased I think it was 8 of those smaller lathes, and we have middle school students that are taking that class, and they're making a lot of different bowls and cups, and they're gonna work on making some baseball bats this winter, and so just a lot of cool things with that. We are in the midst of our new schedule that we created this year, and we have our connect time going, and that's the last 30 minutes of each school day. We have students that sign up for whatever is offered for that day, and we've had some really neat things going on. We've had some guest speakers in, and kids are enjoying that. We're continuing to work out some of the kinks with that. Twice a week we do have our advisory, so instead of the connect time, they go to their designated advisor, And when they meet with that advisor, they go through a social and emotional kind of a lesson plan through our 7 mindsets. And tomorrow is the first one for October. And they'll be working on setting goals and just kind of creating that discussion. And we have it set up for a middle school level and a high school level. So that's been a really positive thing for us. For us at the secondary conferences look a little different. We have a window of conferences that started on Monday and will go through October 29th. And each teacher will be contacting all of their students, families to set up a conference, whether it's virtual, in person, an email or a phone call. And then we have documents that each teacher will fill out to show what that communication was and how that conference went. And then on October 28th, we have an e-learning day for our students. And right now we're working through what that's gonna look like, and we'll get information to families on Monday. Any questions for me?
For the e-learning days, like last year we had, I forget what it's called, like that people would have access to wireless based off of, I believe, their Chromebook.
The
Do we,
hotspots.
yeah, the hotspots.
Yeah.
Big word. Do they still have access to that for e-learning days? We have to still have the same kind of setup? So
Yeah,
there won't be
yep.
students without,
No, and
Okay.
there's a component on Google Classroom where they can work offline too. And just-
Okay.
So, yeah, we have a pretty good handle on who needs the hotspots.
Okay.
We have some out already that we're utilizing.
okay.
Okay, thank you.
Alright. Thanks, David. We'll move on down to Matt, Community Ed.
Good evening, everyone. Let's start with a PAC report. The PAC is going strong, continuously adding new members, lots of activity and happenings down there. We kicked off our PAC parties this past weekend with 2 Blacklight Nerf battle parties. We have a bounce house party this weekend and many more booked for the upcoming weeks. So that's been fun to have more people here on the weekends.
Are those community or private?
So the community people rented, so they buy a package.
Right, okay. I mean, I didn't know if you were offering a black light through community ed or.
It's
Yeah.
a private birthday party at this.
These are all
private
private,
birthday.
these are all
Yeah,
private groups.
But like today, we had after school blacklight dodgeball
Right,
for
okay.
elementary kids.
Okay, but these
so-
are private, okay.
Yep. Fitness center should be painted by the end of the week, we hope this week, so that's kind of one of our last things left to kind of wrap up. You know, those windows that were cut out and everything, we just waiting for the painters. The West Central Tribune came out, I think it was last week or the week before, they're doing a story on community centers and the collaboration. And the reporter was out for our open house and she was really impressed, so she came out to include us in that. Should be, I think, like around October 24th in the West Central Trib. Fall programs are going strong and we're already actively planning for our winter programming and spring. So if you ever have any community input on ideas for classes or whatever, just let us know. Pause report, we're currently at 102 students for this school year for the pause program. Live stream update, tonight is game 2 of 3 for this week. It's the last week of our regular season games. And just some kind of interesting stats, so Maggie, I know you'll like this because you like data. So this is just our YouTube channel for the district's Paynesville studios over the last 365 days. We've had 64,695 views. We've had 14,087 watch time hours. So actual 14,000 hours of watching, which is crazy when you think about it. We added 385 subscribers and we've had 711,830 impressions. So I don't know exactly what an impression is, but must feel like where you're in and out of it or whatever, so. And a school board meeting is in the top, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
Setting watching.
10, 11. I don't know if you made the top 10. No, you did. 1, 2. Number 4, the June 11th school board meeting had 1,300 views. So, I'm not sure why, I think the algorithm picked up that they have a recommendation, so I think your video was recommended.
Sweet, we're paying for ads.
Cause you only had 28 hours of watch time, but you had 1,300 views, so. But you picked up 2 subscribers from that video, so, but it's kind of fun, our top video in the last year was
Hurry
the,
up, throw out some rumors about what we're gonna discuss.
yeah, oh yeah, that's great. The top video was the October 30th, football game versus Morris, and we had 1,900 views and 1,010 watch time hours for that game, which was interesting, so. And, this year's, I think, and we pull off the games right after, so Royalton on October 1st, that game, we had 1,241 views, 607
And you
watch time
remove
hours.
those videos.
Right that night, yeah.
That night, so it's not like watching the next week or.
Right.
Correct, that's
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah, so I think we were almost, I don't know, was it 400 or 387 or something like that, the football game that we had live on at that time. So, and 1,200 views by the end of it, I think it was, so. So just kind of some interesting stats, for that, and that's just YouTube, we do stream, most games on Facebook too. District communication report sent out a Bulldog Bark today, with the, some updates. People are really good about getting, stories out there. Miranda's great about getting content out there, so we're just kind of pulling that. So if you have any other people that wanna be on that email, list, I know you guys are forwarding it because we have more views on that than we do, subscribers to the list that I send out, so thanks for forwarding it out. So, any questions for me?
Do you find that PAC membership is up since we got the building finished?
Yeah, and we're seeing the highest amount are our seniors, with the silver and fit and silver sneakers, the free membership, which really works out good. A majority of any senior that stops in, they're checking it out and wondering about membership. You run to see if they're qualified, and 99% qualify for a free membership through their supplemental insurance. So
Just to clarify, you do make something off of that, right?
we do if they come, correct?
Yeah,
Yep,
and it's, but it is free to the seniors,
correct.
but the PAC doesn't.
Yep, we get reimbursed, so it's ours.
So it's a good thing.
Absolutely, we just want them to come, and it's been a really nice fall, so they haven't been like banging down our doors for the walking track or anything yet, but I think when the weather turns, which is good too, we're getting some procedures down and we're getting routines down, and so.
If you keep getting more, you might need a few more parking spots.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's getting tight out there. Today there wasn't anybody, yesterday it was full.
yeah, I agree, so, be a good problem, right?
Yeah.
So.
Do you have an update on the weekend tournaments? I think last time you had shared the number and it was already a large.
Yeah, it's, we haven't added any additional
Okay.
since then, but, yeah, I communicate with Pacesetter and they seem to be holding that they're gonna be happening. They have some camps coming up that the numbers listed for, so, yeah.
Good.
Anything else? No? Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, thank you.
Off to the next show, right?
Yeah, off to the game here, all right.
Alright, Steve, buildings and grounds.
Good evening. Okay, I'm gonna start with, we had another new hire recently, and her name is Beverly Levy, and she comes to us from the Sartell School District, so brings with a nice amount of experience and some nice, already pretty much trained person that was really nice to see so far. She's been with us a couple weeks now, and mainly working in the PAC area and the fitness center, auditorium area, and has been doing, like I said, just a nice job to have somebody already fully trained and has some nice, brings with her some information to help us do a better job then too, so that's been a nice, so we currently have 4 full-time night custodians at the high school and 2 at the elementary, so I don't know if I think may have been quite a while since we've actually been at that point is what I've heard, I don't know, but so we're basically kind of fully staffed, I think, so, yeah, I think so.
Good.
Yeah, We just had some DOT inspections on our vans. We had 3 out of the 4 passed. One had a little, very difficult to see little ping in the windshield. And so we're getting that taken care of. And then Belgrade has theirs next on Monday, so we're getting that fixed this week, and I'll get it over there and get the vans all DOT approved, so. Yep. Been continuing working with the elementary project, with the Univent project, with getting things in line, so we have that ready to go if in fact it does all get approved and things, and move forward on that. From still meeting with a lot of contractors, had a bunch of asbestos, had 8 different contractors bidding on the asbestos removal, which is a really amazing number. You usually don't get that many. Had 8 contractors there yesterday looking at this for that bidding process. So that'll be very competitive and very nice to see, I guess. So also working with the Horizon Roofing on our roofs, just to go through all the warranty information. We need to have some of that for the project at the elementary school. Donnie had a lot of that stuff pretty well organized and things like that, but it still makes more sense if I meet with the person in hand and get my arms wrapped around it better. And so we're getting that information down for both buildings on how the roofs are doing, ages, and just doing an overall inspection of them. Also been working with a new air filter gentleman that I have worked with in the past with Belgrade. They have a really good process with air filters for our air handlers, and Donnie had currently been ordering pretty much in bulk kind of for the whole year through this ERDC program, which is great. But the company that I've been working with, you can order one day and we'll have them the next week. And so we're not storing all these filters. They're very organized, and he has a great deal of knowledge on any filters. And with COVID, he had some good information for us on indoor air quality and worked with us on any of that things. So I want to bring him to the Paynesville School District and get him involved. But it's a lot of labor involved with that right now, going through each air handler, measuring and getting information on that, and moving forward with that process here. The pricing is very similar or sometimes even cheaper than the ERDC, which you wouldn't think ordering in bulk like that would be, but it is when you do the comparisons on that. So it's be a nice move forward, and have the expertise of somebody that if anyone ever does have any issues with indoor air quality, I got an expert right in my back pocket that'll come up and work with us on and explain things and do that. Also continuing with our computer HVAC training to diagnose problems. That's kind of an ongoing thing here for a few months here yet. Once a day for the next month, we're continuing having Yule come down to do some training with us on that, which is free training provided by Yule. That's the software program that we use for our HVAC program. Also the checklist that I mentioned last time, and continuing to keep working on that, starting with Brad and Gary, just getting a monthly checklist down, which I've used for many years, just having a January through December checklist, having information on each month on what needs to get done. It's just so, yeah, I just can't, you can't keep it all straight, and I still refer to it every month on what's upcoming. November, you go up and you do drain inspections on all the drains on the roof, make sure all the leaves are moved away from them and things like that. It's just things like this stuff you don't always think of, but once you see it on a checklist. So I've been working with Brad and Gary on developing a checklist for them for a monthly process, so that they can start having that in hand for themselves. So lastly is just winter is right in our in our eyesight here coming up, hopefully, but just starting to get with the guys on all of our equipment and getting all that down on the process for snow removal and making sure we have everything in place and ready to go if it does snow November 1st, so. No, I know.
Not allowed.
Nasty word, nasty word, but overall, things have been going very well, with the school district here, I believe, and, Brad and Gary have been very good to work with.
I've gotten compliments from staff, of the quality of the care from your team.
Good.
Throughout both buildings.
Good.
So just wanted to pass that along to you and you pass it along to your team that, there's definitely a lot of good impressions being made right now.
Good, thank you. Yeah.
Good.
Anything else?
Just having an extra custodian is going to take some of the pressure off also, isn't it?
Yes, it will, yeah.
It's good that you found her.
Pardon?
It's good that you found her.
Yes, I know, we've, had, through Indeed, I think that's, you know, the news, putting ads in the newspaper is almost a thing of the past here, coming up here, so. But, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alright,
No, baseball stadium lease, go ahead.
allow me. Alright, I'm gonna invite Chris to come on up and, kind of give you guys a little bit of a rundown. I did attach the current baseball association lease. Chris and I just had a conversation about some of the language that's in the lease. And we wanted to walk through just, I guess, it's okay at the moment, but it could be a future barrier for us when it comes to, activities and future events that our baseball stadium can host. And so you'll notice in the current, don't worry, I'm not gonna make you look at it that little. In the current baseball, association lease, there is, oh, I didn't wanna copy that. What did I just do? I wanted to open that. There we go. So you'll notice very specific language about, the alcohol use outside of school hours and outside of the school seasons. One of the things that, and I'll turn it over to Chris here in just a second and he can tell a little bit more about some of the possible barriers here. But you'll notice that it says, and I've got it highlighted in here, and so I'm gonna just scroll until I can see it, there it is. The language in the lease really identifies 3.2% malt liquor. So the purpose behind that was when this lease agreement was enacted, 3.2 beer was that was what was allowable, that was what was available, it's what was in, I guess, it was a model that we had. What we're running into is, the state of Minnesota is the last state that has, a 3.2 beer provision. So, I'm gonna maybe let Chris talk a little bit about, how that should become a barrier for us and where that request to look at it might be a little bit different.
Thanks, Cheryl. Yeah, when we wrote up this lease, having 3.2 beer was kind of what everybody did.
Yeah.
And it was no big deal whatsoever, and we're 100% for it, and to be honest with you, we still would be if we could get it. We can't get it anymore, except for about two different, Mickey Light, Bud Light, Budweiser, Coors Light, and Busch Light are the only ones that are actually produced anymore. However, you can't get them hardly because last year we really struggled and we had to order ahead of time, and it's just not it's going to go away. I'm talking with Bill at the liquor store. We are the last state that has it. The convenience stores are pushing hard to be able to sell regular beer. But the liquor stores are all pushing very hard not to allow that. And the liquor stores are winning, and they probably still will win. The only problem is the only people that are gonna get 3.2 beer are the Quick Trips of the world. Paynesville baseball stadium isn't very high on the priority list, I can tell you that much. So we are just coming back. Basically, when we signed this in 2015, when we opened in 2015, it was actually done before that. the 3-2 was how it was, and so, we're just asking now to basically change the language of the lease to pretty much state, and I don't know how to state this, but, I think I sent someone an email just saying, I think we could change the language from 3.2% malt liquor to regular non-craft beer in all places, and it'd be fine. We're not looking to sell, 8.2% beer or anything like that. We're looking to sell Coors Light, Michelob Light, Busch Light, Budweiser, Bud Light Lime, and some other drink that the ladies like. Whichever other one my wife tells me to go buy, or Janelle. So, you know, it's just, I don't care. We're not looking to do anything crazy or anything like that. We're not obviously looking to sell any hard alcohol or anything like that. We're just, I'd like to be able to change the language to go to regular beer.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about that for us and for the community is because we are a nonprofit, we can buy from the Paynesville liquor store and resell it. And Bill is willing to give us a deal. He's gonna knock 10 or 15% off everything we buy there, and it's good for more than one reason. It's supporting the community, and for us, it's super convenient. If we run out of beer, it's cold. I mean, run across the street and go grab 3 cases and bring it back and sell it. I mean, the thing is, it's, we don't really make money on beer sales there unless we have a huge tournament. Because we pay over $1,200 a year just in insurance to sell beer there. That's a lot of beer to sell, and we have 10 home games maybe a year, unless we have a tournament or something. So it's one of those things that we do because we're an amateur baseball team in Stearns County, and if we don't, nobody's coming here to play. Plain and simple. So, and teams want to come here to play. So that's, I guess, you know, I know this is a working session, so I just wanted to bring that up and tell you guys why we're looking for it, what we're looking for. The language can be drafted by your attorney or by Dave Johnson, to change that to, cause I don't think regular non-craft beer, maybe that is the language that'll be, but I don't know what it's, I tried to figure out what regular beer is called, and it's just called beer.
And I think
Right.
with the board's support, we can we'll find the appropriate language.
Right.
And then have that drafted for the next board meeting if that's
So-
where the board would like us to go, but we can find that one.
I'm not familiar with the percentages. What is the percentage of regular beer?
Maybe up, well, here's the scoop, 3.2 beer this is now, I've done a lot of research on it, so 3.2 beer is 3.5 or less. It's anywhere between 3.2 and 3.5. Anything from 3.5 to 4.2 is regular beer. So most beers are around that 3.8, so.
With your seltzers and stuff being around
Yeah.
that 5%.
Right, which we're not selling.
Even though
No, we're not going to seltzers,
Okay.
we're literally selling beer. The more fruitier beer, let's say, like a seltzer, would be a Bud Light Lime or a, there's a Blue Moon, let's just say, something like that. Otherwise, literally 80% of the beer that we have sold, there's Busch Light. It just is. It's Busch Light. You can say what you want, but it's Busch Light out there. I buy it 3-to-1. So it's, that's what we sell. So, that's kind of what we're looking for, but just to give a few other updates too, on the baseball field, since I'm here. With that too, we did meet with Steve, our baseball association, met with Steve Guzzi last week, we talked about the field some, and then we also talked about, we're gonna have a lot more solid plan in place, let's say, of cleaning up after games, after weekends, who's doing what, who's in charge of what. We haven't really had anything. Donnie just said, well, we'll see what happens. And with Steve and us, we met last week and said, we'd like to have, and Steve also said, we'd like to have something in place. We said, absolutely. So we want to have something where we know what the baseball association is in charge of, per se, and what the custodians will take care of. So that is going to be in place by next spring, or by the time school's out next year. So that was a very good conversation with Steve. I was happy to have that. So we'll have a good plan for next summer. Few things we've done out there recently is, we had the agar line laser graded out there and removed the lip on the back of the infield. I know the school had a company, I can't remember what their name is, out there, that they've done all the fields, but they did the football fields, softball fields, and then they came to the baseball field this fall and top seeded it and I can't remember what to call it, laser and some other kind of seating in the infield. And when the guy was out there, he talked to Max and just said, hey, I can kind of tell, you guys got a lip and stuff, and I can tell that water sits out here. And Max called me up and I went out and met with the guy and I said, yeah, our biggest problem is when it rains a lot, the water sits there, it sits there, it sits there, and it sits there. He goes, oh, I can tell. So they gave us a bid for $4,900 to laser grade it. And they removed a ton of agar line. They put a new piece of sod all the way in the back and in the front. So in a regulation baseball field from home plate to is 95 feet to where the outfield starts, the back of the agar line. Well, our entire field now is 95 feet within about 2 inches. And they laser grade this all for all the water to go off that way. It rained, that was when it rained about 2 or 3 inches the next week. Went out there, then Ronnie Fuchs sent the picture the next morning and there was not an ounce of water on the field. It was amazing. It's like, I'm like,
Yeah.
that was the coolest. And they actually removed a bunch of agar line. He did say, like, we are like every other school district out there. And baseball field, when you have water, what do? You go grab some agar line and you throw it on there. Well, then you get more here and now there's less here. Then you just keep adding it and adding it and adding it. Well, they remove it to make this, and then it's fantastic. I mean, the infield, agar line, I've never seen it look that good since I've been here. So fantastic. So the Baseball Association is paying for that. So that's awesome. We had a great summer of baseball. Tons and tons of games were played out there again this year. The amateur team somehow made the state tournament for the first time ever. So I wasn't there when we made it, probably why. I was in Wisconsin when we beat Regal, so but fantastic season for the amateur team, very good season for the Legion team, and all the young teams had great years as well. So had a lot of kids. It was really good. So still have some work to do on the field. The stadium itself, we still have a leaky roof per se, leaking down into the both sides underneath, and we got our best man on it. Brucey Stang is going to be working on that to get going up, to get that figured out. So we'll be working on that. Last thing I had is kind of goes along with the beer and needing to get regular beers. We are putting in, as a baseball association, a bid for the state tournament, amateur state baseball tournament in 2024-25 or possibly 26. The official thing is 2024-25, but there's a bunch of people and it sounds like the state may bid or award 26 as well. We are bidding on that with New London, Spicer, and Farming as the other towns that are us, and New London, Spicer would be or Spicer, whatever you wanna call it, Green Lake Diamonds. We would be the first and second site, and Farming would be our third site. We bid on that on November 13th. I think it gets awarded on the 14th of November, so we will know well ahead of time. We'll know 3 years ahead of time if we get it. If we do, we're gonna bring 20,000 people to these two towns.
Yeah.
Over a 3-weekend period. It will be very, 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 very good for our community and Paynesville baseball, so we'll need a ton of help.
Yeah, I think the other piece that I'll just add to that, as obviously as my son participated in the state tournament, there is a lot of energy, there's a lot of visibility to the communities, and the number of people that I saw stopping and looking at just facilities in the school. I mean, there's just a lot of really good attention that comes to those communities.
It was in Laconia and Chaska this year.
This year was Waconia and Chaska.
And they put on a heck of a show. They set not a record, but they had over 20,000 people for the first time in many years. And I'm pretty certain if we get it with Spicer and Farming, we'll blow those numbers out of the water. just because we're so centrally located and because of how many people love baseball in this area that will come and watch, so.
That'd be cool.
We caught every week on Channel 9, they had the
Oh, the town ball,
Yeah.
yep,
Why aren't we on that? We had a better stadium than most of those places.
because we haven't asked for it yet. We haven't, a lot of those towns, we'll get it eventually, if we want it.
Well, I think we should.
I do,
PR.
to be honest with you. Our field is now where it needs to be. It hasn't been. I mean, it looks good from the top. Our infield sucked. I mean, it wasn't very good. It's good. It's really good now. It's high, very, very high quality. Our field is we've got some more work to do, and we're, I guess, a little bit more particular than some people are, and we need to get it where it is, but, yeah, if we get it, great.
Just say this Paynesville needs some good PR. We get enough.
Right. Oh, I know.
You do need
Well, and in the baseball community, we have gotten a lot of good PR. Hopefully, we get the state tournament. I'm not gonna say we're gonna get it. It's our first time bidding on it. I have been asked by several people to bid on it at the state board level. And so, but it is a heck of an undertaking if we get it, I know it'll consume 3 years of my life. So, but I'm willing to do it, and it'll be fun, so. It'll be good for the town, very, very, very good for the town.
Good for our town.
So, any questions on the baseball park or anything else that we brought up?
When you're going into the lease agreement, right now it reads that all alcohol has to be removed at all times. And I think there was a gentleman's agreement in place about how it could be, some of it could be left on site in coolers.
Yeah, where does it say it has to be removed all the times?
I believe it was in the contract here somewhere.
Must be sold in Kansas facility. Service shall not be allowed to leave the facility. So,
I think it also, I think it had to do with the school, during it.
all cups or cans in which have been served shall be removed from the premises. Yeah, and that's what I think that's what we've talked to Steve with.
Yeah.
Anything that's been served. So like empty cans and stuff. And I will admit, that's number 6 on page 8.
Yeah.
That's at the end of it, all cups or cans in which we don't have cups, all cans that have been served shall be removed from the premises.
Sure.
That has fallen down, but we haven't done the best job, I'll freely admit that, and that's why we met with Steve. We will have a better plan in place, of who needs to remove those,
Sure.
so. But we do, as far as alcohol that's there being removed, it's locked. And we do have a specially made black tarp that goes over the cooler that serves the beer, so during a Legion game or during a Little League game or something, it shouldn't be seen. It's up, I'm not gonna say it's up 100% of the time, but it's up the vast majority of the time, and if we're around, it's up, so.
In regards to where we at least, I think, look at the language then.
Okay.
I'm in agreement, at least having language that's presented at the next board meeting for further discussion is worth having. In regards to that.
Perfect.
So,
Can do.
All right, guys, thank you very much.
Thanks for your time.
You bet.
Appreciate it.
Good work, thanks.
thank you.
All right, you guys gotta head out? All right, thank you, appreciate it. Will you check and see, Chris, when you head out, if, the FFA people are out there? Natalie,
in.
okay.
We're up next.
All right, so next on the agenda, you will see,
Do you have a jump drive?
Yep.
Do you have the presentation on the jump drive or no?
oh,
Okay, Natalie will pull it up.
so the next we have, I have,
Hey, Natalie. Hi, pull it up on my email?
Yep.
If that's okay, well, you guys are already logged in on there.
yeah, do you wanna send it to me? And I can click through it,
You wanna log in?
I left my phone home with my kids.
So, here, I can probably send it.
to them.
JNEL, right?
just do J
Okay.
ULLARD
At.
at
.org.
Close the door.
Okay, it should be coming your way.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Um,
Showing up.
Not yet.
Make sure it doesn't go to spam.
Yeah, good point.
Not yet.
If you send it to Facebook, it won't be here till tomorrow.
Oh, no. That's no good.
Natalie, you can log into my laptop, maybe into your, yeah, I could do that.
Okay, well, maybe I'll introduce ourselves as we're trying to get our technicals together. I
Well,
apologize.
let me let them know a little bit about, cause I haven't prepped the board at all, kind of
Okay.
what our purpose is
Okay,
today,
awesome.
so. Natalie and I met to talk a little bit about the FFA plot. And they had some vision and some thoughts and concepts that they wanted to just walk through conceptually with you, primarily around the irrigation system. And so the purpose tonight is really about just information, and it's not an ask, it's just an informational FYI about what they bring in to take place. So with that, I can turn it over and Natalie, I don't know if you wanna introduce your guests or if you wanna just let them take over, it's up to you.
I'll let them take over.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm Karen Johnson. I think I've been lucky enough to be in front of you a couple times in the last couple years. I'm currently the vice president of our FFA Alumni and Supporters Group. We are here, and Doug Durant is here as well. We, as the FFA Alumni and Supporters, are here to support our FFA instructor and our program and our youth that participate in ag activities, the VOTEC Ag offerings through the curriculum at the school here, and also the leadership and learnings that the FFA organization offers them as an extracurricular activity outside of the walls of the school. Doug and Natalie and I were all actually lucky enough to be FFA members in our high school days. So we all have a definite passion to make sure these kids have opportunities and fundraising channels to gain funds so that they can go do things such as state and national convention, other learnings outside of our area, without the burden of them being on the backs of their parents and the kids themselves. We've all grown and seen great opportunities in our post-high school and collegiate careers, and again, are here to really support those kids. So that brings us to where we are here today. We have had the great opportunity to utilize, I'm sure you're all familiar, the about 10 acres just south of the school here as the FFA plot. There's been an evolution of that plot. From its early existence, it has been grown primarily or used to primarily grow corn and soybean crop that we use to for educational purposes for these kids through a plot day and other learnings. And then also we sell the proceeds or the crops grown on the plot to fundraise for extra money for these kids to do some fun activities. So what we are asking today is for you to support us in our vision to move this plot forward. Right now, you may or may not know that plot is basically a gravel pit. It's not great ground to grow crops on.
because it doesn't hold water, it's not really sustainable for that. So to make that feasible, we have used an irrigation system to continually water it. Some water more years than others due to what Mother Nature gives us. But currently we are using a irrigation system that we have to move throughout the plot on a regular basis to get it watered. It's 60 years old. It's extremely labor intensive to get it moved from place to place, and it's just not ideal. It's not what the 21st century farmers and those in agriculture are using. We're really being given archaic tools to continue to limp along and create this opportunity for our kids. So we've been doing some research as an FFA alumni group to try to figure out what could be better. And we have found some irrigation units that would be much more mechanized, would not require so much labor intensive work to move from place to place. It might give us opportunity to grow more than corn and soybeans in the future depending on where this goes. We've grown corn and soybeans up until this point because that's kind of been our focus, but we know agriculture is continuing to change and evolve, and these kids need to see that and experience that. So we want to be a progressive FFA alumni and supporter group to show these kids what their opportunities may be. Less and less kids grow up, have the opportunity of growing up on a farm and having hands-on opportunity to see and learn these things. And there's a lot of great careers in agriculture, especially in a rural community like this. So that is what we're looking for, is to continue to progress to the next level. We want to provide that 21st century technology. So we feel that this upgrade and researching these opportunities gives us, really what's on the screen there. Ability to educate about the future of technology on a vocational basis within the classroom, build more funds or continue to build funds towards chapter excellence and give these kids opportunities to have funds towards leadership activities. We want to provide some student research opportunities. There's some great, we've learned about these irrigation systems, they're programmed, they use GPS, they use coding, they use skills that they're already learning in the classroom and applying them to true, real application of what happens in the real world. And I think that's great for these kids to latch on to, how can I use what I'm learning today in my future career, or something I can do to better something else. As I said, they have advanced technology GPS. We want to continue as an alumni group, given the opportunity of being able to utilize that land to better support our FFA students. And we're seeing that there's some environmental impact because of the irrigation timing and application of the water at certain times of day and at certain rates. We can even increase our yield potential of what's grown out there if we tweak and move. That's a research project on its own. So our objectives are really continuing to dedicate what we've been able to use up until now, that piece of land that we've been so lucky to utilize, and just do better. We want to find more opportunities, like I said, to continue to teach these kids about really what's happening in agriculture and how they can be part of it and how it can be an exciting opportunity for them as a career. We want to continue to fund and support that FFA program, utilizing, CTE funds, grants, private funds. We've been doing some research to figure out what we can do as an organization, who and where we can reach out to help fund this. And we want to expand community awareness and support. For the first year this year, we were able to plant 4 rows of sweet corn on the north side of that field, and we're able to post on Facebook and sell it to the community. These kids got dirty, they sweat, they got their hands in it, and they got to interact with those around them and explain what they were doing, and it helped. It was good to see them build their confidence, their communication skills with the community, and just find something to be excited about. I think my best quote that day was, one kid said to the other, "This was way better than sitting around in the all afternoon playing video games at home." It's like, yes, this is what this is all about. So that's really what we're looking for, is your support for us to go forward and continue to research putting a better irrigation system on that ground, continue to research the funding sources that we have as access to us through the FFA alumni, through community organizations, through environmental organizations that are supportive of this project and this idea. And really just continue to be a shining light for these kids and also for the FFA organization on a whole, to explain what we're doing in our local Paynesville community. So, did I cover it? Did I miss anything?
Covered it well.
There any questions?
Are you gonna put up a new one, or are you looking for a used one of those?
Yeah, so we had a good discussion about that. We, in meeting with some of the reps, the irrigation reps available to us, really have decided that buying a brand new one with the technology available is really probably the better route to go. We brought up piecing together something, you know, used, and then it's, you gotta fix this, and you gotta retrofit that, and you gotta make sure it fits here, and you gotta get it, you know, it's like buying a used computer and then upgrading all the systems. It just seems a little,
It's gonna end up costing about the
counterproductive.
same anyways.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
what, the representative we met with last week.
yeah, so.
Like a local representative?
Suck Center. And he said, I spoke with Ken Utch, and he said he bought a used one, and that was 18,000. And he did all the updates and everything, and still it ended up way more than that. And that was a used one, but he had to take and replace a lot of the stuff. And he can do that because he's an electrician.
Right.
And he has that ability.
Right.
But it's hard if you don't have that ability to do that stuff.
Yeah. And the grants and outside funds we're looking for, really, we're aligning those dollars, to working towards a dollar amount for something brand new.
How many FFA students in Paynesville?
We have, well, right now the kids are still paying in their dues and stuff, so we have approximately like 35, 40, 7th through 12th graders. And that changes on a yearly basis.
Could I just add a couple of things?
Sure.
Again, I'm Doug Durant. I'm fairly new to the community. We just finally moved here full-time last July. I'm a life member of the alumni. I went to school in Gaithersburg, Maryland. I worked 40 years. I'm retired ag and mechanical engineer. I worked for John Deere for 40 years. So I worked in Waterloo, Iowa, and now we're here permanent. And it's time for me to get back to the chapter here. And I'm really looking forward to doing that. You know, I just look at, it's unbelievable what the new technology does. And to go beyond that, just think of having that as a showcase when people drive by, the showcase in the county, the state, and who knows, maybe to the national level, a showcase of a school that has a field plot with this kind of system. A lot of times you don't see any kind of irrigation just because they have better soil. But this is really something that would be great for the community and the school and the kids. So look forward and working on this, and I know there's time, we're limited on time, but it's really gonna be great.
And I have reached out to the Minnesota Ag Teachers Association and put out an email to their listserv, and there are other schools that have plots, but as far as I'm hearing, none of them have an irrigation system on there. Again, because they have heavier soil, they don't have the gravel pit we have. But also I think just maybe not as much as that support that we have here too with our plot, so.
And one other thing, we're just been exploring with, what other options could you do with that plot? Could it be used with the community food garden? So there are schools that they grow vegetables for the school. Orchard. What could you do in that scheme? So many different options, and it's just really, it's just a matter of your imagination and getting the resources to get those executed.
And one of the, couple of the other features that we're looking into is a soil moisture probe too. That we did pilot that, I don't know, probably 10 years ago from John Deere. And at that time, it was more expensive technology, not exactly worked through with all the bugs and kinks. But now they have it more affordable. And so they did kind of put that into an idea where it would tell you how much water you're getting. Obviously, you can go out and look too, but it's going to regulate, it's gonna put it onto your phone. You can even have it as that coding system of if water is at this level or not at this level, turn on irrigation system, so the kids would learn how that works in terms of technology and that coding that works with a command and output. And then they would be able to see what's going on their phones, whether they're tracking it or whether they're also, maybe select few are in charge of it. Right now, it's hard with that traveling gun, cause every time we use it, something's breaking down.
Right.
It's, you know, the hose or the cable or whatever, so either way, things that we're gonna have to spend money on that traveling gun to replace everything that's pretty much broken on it. So.
The hose to water is literally getting shorter and shorter because as it gets a hole in it, we have to cut it and splice it together and we can only go that much than that for it.
We put Band-Aids on it.
Yeah, we've duct taped and super glued it as far as we can.
Do you partner with the U of M at all, like for their, the College of Food and Agriculture?
So I talked to a gentleman, I know what you're saying, I talked to a gentleman at the state fair and asked about that on his booth that he was talking about, and actually Rocori has Carenza at their plot, and they're doing some stuff with different research and different food that is being made from those products. That could be an option down the road. I mean, one thing we've gotta, I've talked about doing research for another company, or you do like pennycress, or you do just different types of crops on there, or you do the two crops where you have more of a grain and then you got your soybeans and then you can harvest two off of there. Either way, it's a lot of research and a lot of work to do right away, and I think we need to get the watering system taken care of before we can take that next level, because that research is a whole different level where we're at right now, and to try to hit two of them at one time with the manpower, it's a lot. So is that a possibility down the road, and looking into some research? Definitely.
Just two more quick comments. Talking about water, it's a 40% reduction in water consumption, which is significant. The second thing is, there's two different types of systems, depending on which one is decided to go with. There is a center pivot system that is to the west of the town on Roseville Road, just north of Highway 55. And that's where you got the high hill and you got the subdivision that's up there. I haven't gotten to it yet, but that is a place that you could possibly see the center pivot system of the same brand that we're looking at.
And I met with some different local farmers like Kolb's and Brocklers and different people, kind of getting their input and their take on it, and what do they see, and yes, a lot of what we're doing with this irrigation system that we have currently now, these kids don't even use that on their farms. Like, maybe their grandparents used it, but that's why they all have gone away from the traveling gun. It's so hard to even find parts now for it, when you do have to make repairs. So most of them have moved on to center pivots, and so we would be keeping up too with what they're using at home or what they would be using in the future.
How long is it? How big is it? 10 acres?
Didn't bring that, well, I got it over my notebook, but.
Well, and some of that detail is within this slide deck too.
Yeah,
but-
and I was just gonna mention that, we got some backup slides that show some of the technology.
Yeah,
It's only gonna be, one span length,
yep, okay.
One or two, depending on.
that's because of the size of the field.
Yep.
And this slide is really cool, where they show in terms of doing, where you're putting in your programming where the water is going, they're doing it two different types.
It's prescription
Yeah.
watering.
Prescription
essentially.
watering, and then this is the outcome. And this is all stuff that the kids can see and learn about. It's just fascinating. Yeah.
And I think if you go down further, is that where you have how far? If it was a center pivot, we would hit most of the field. There's a linear one, two, it keeps going further.
Keep going.
Yeah, keep going, keep going.
We've kind of figured out the pros and cons in that,
Keep going to now.
right there.
Up there, yeah. Yeah. That represents the wheel. And this area is with the large gun, and then these other areas with the secondary smaller gun.
So we've
So
looked,
you get, this is if you go with center pivot. If you go with a linear pivot system, you're getting the whole field, but there's pros and cons with anything that you want to decide to go with. So that's all to be discussed, and, but it's, gives you an idea.
So I guess what we're really asking for is support to move forward for us to continue to research this. We, have grant opportunities through the end of the year. We know based on meeting with the supplier that due to supply chain issues, we don't have a lot of time. If we wanna get this in place by next spring, it's still possible, but we can't keep kicking the can down the road. We gotta make a decision. So we're just asking for your support to continue. We didn't wanna do this behind your back. We wanted you to be part of the decision-making process, but we sure hope that you can support us to continue to research what our funding options are for this equipment.
And I'll say yes to certainly, myself, a single member of the school board, to fully support the FFA and this field plot, and I love driving by it. I've loved driving by it for years, knowing what it stands for, what it's there for, and the education that we can pull from it. So I fully would expect everybody, I think probably is on that same board as I am, the same ideas I am, certainly continue that research, continue that progress, and we'll continue to support you guys in all aspects that we need to as well, so.
very cool.
All right.
We're harvesting the corn at 10 o'clock on Friday morning, so if anybody wants to come by and see, we harvested the beans last week.
Oh, just one last comment. There's so many positives of this program, but a big one is, it's not just for the FFA chapter and Natalie's classes, it can go into biology, it can go into horticulture. And,
Technology with the coding piece of it.
So it's for the school.
And I guess I take from it the ideas and potential progress that we can make with that, but understandably, needing an efficient means of irrigation is the first step of further expanding our ideas, but to be a test plot for other ideas isn't as prevalent if you don't have a decent water supply on poor soil.
Yeah, if you haven't checked out the Initiative Foundation, they might be somebody to look at for grants.
The Initiative Foundation?
Yep, they're based in Little Falls.
Okay.
They do like community grants, but I don't know what their criteria all is, but
Time.
Initiative Foundation, okay, sounds good, all right.
But wouldn't it be great that Paynesville School is known throughout the state? That would be pretty cool.
We actually do get a lot of people saying, oh, you're the school with the great plot out there.
And I talked with Dave Schrupp this morning, and he already knows about it, he's heard, so it's kind of going around the community. So it's fun to hear positive comments coming back from people like that.
Okay, that was way more than 10 minutes.
Sorry.
Thank you very much, thank you.
And sorry for the presentation, I messed up on that, so.
No worries, not a problem at all. We're just,
we got it up there.
Yeah, it's just a little.
Answer to it, or?
What's that?
I said, do we need to wait for a official word to pursue?
I can follow up with you tomorrow.
Yeah,
I'll visit with the board.
Sounds good. Okay,
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Oh, and think of the great news articles. Not just local, but state local.
All right,
Talk about a schedule.
Facilities committee update. I'll let you take off on that and we can kind of chime in as needed.
yeah, that sounds great. So I've included a document that's gonna look very familiar to you all. And I'm doing that, I'm really intending to have this as kind of a running dialogue. Hold on, there we go. To really have this as a running dialogue. So you'll notice the first project that was up under discussion is the PAC, the CTE remodel boiler replacements. That is done. You will notice that there is a change in the dollar amount. That project really has consumed the funds that were allocated for that project. And so you'll notice that there is no longer a at one point in time, it was about $400,000 to look through, and that is not the case. So the project really has been, the funds have been allocated to that project. The next project that we kind of walked through is the indoor air quality. So a couple of things that you'll notice in my notes that was discussed was, so this project, the grant, the ESSER funds, the application has been submitted. I've not yet heard whether that is approved or not. And so what I really did look at was, what are our options if for some reason that grant would not be approved? How could we fund this project? And so we talked about a couple of different options. None of those have really been explored super significantly, only because we're gonna wait to make sure that the funds are approved. We also did kick around the potential of would it make sense to utilize, apply less of the ESSER funds, and really we felt that as the committee met that due to the fact that there's been so much discussion about how this was going to move forward, we didn't feel it was appropriate to take any further like veer and do anything different. So unless that the ESSER grant is not approved, that would still be the plan, is that moving forward, 1 million of that is going to be covered through the stimulus dollars, and then the remaining portion would be the 850, and there's the two different components that I believe that we should make that decision when we know if the dollars are approved, because the way in which we move forward with the next project will kind of be dependent on how we move forward with the 850, okay? I know that you all have had a lot of discussion about whether or not you use the long-term facility maintenance dollars and buy bonds against that facility dollars, or if you look at using the indoor air quality and look at the large project, the long-term facility maintenance large project funds. There's pros and cons to both of those, which we will continue to talk about once we know for certain where those grant dollars are approved. And then at that point in time, we can come back and look at these. I had Ellers do a cost estimate for us 2 different ways, doing the whole project through a large, the large long-term facility maintenance indoor air quality methodology, which is the levy dollars. Again, I'm not super excited about that until we have a lot more discussion around that, but that's why you'll see that document in there, just so that you know why that was discussed and looked at as kind of okay, what are our worst case scenarios? I think I've told you, some of you individually, that I'm kind of a worst case scenario planner, and I figure out, okay, how would we do this and then we have multiple options, okay? So the other piece that I wanted to just bring you up to speed on is that the design schematics for that project are completely done. The bid documents were shared on October 6th or 7th. October 22nd, there's a walkthrough that Steve has got set with all of the potential bidders. On November 4th would be a bid opening, and then on November 9th, we would meet to review, and that's a proposed date. On November 9th currently is our it is a work session but we may have to look at that a little bit differently anyways, but pending the results of the election, you know, we may need to canvass our results. So that would need to be done at an active meeting versus a work session anyways. So we may wanna take a look at that in November for that board meeting. At that point in time is when I think it's gonna be most appropriate for us to determine the next step of that funding mechanism, so that we know exactly how we wanna do that, okay? As we move forward then and taking a look at project number 3 that we discussed, and this really was the, really setting the priorities for the activity complex rehabilitation and modernization. So really bringing those softball fields up to speed and bringing those to a level that's competitive and comparable to our baseball stadium, and also resurfacing our track, and then taking a look at what's happening with the football fields. I did have a meeting with BCI last week, and I've sent a message out to the facilities committee for them to sit down with BCI and I to really phase out that project, because as you'll notice, we're gonna be short on funding, because there was a gap there that we have to talk through. that being said, we're gonna look at what our options are to phase it. If we were gonna do just the fields, the softball fields and the ticket booth, if we were gonna do just the softball field and the track, if we were gonna do just the essentially doing the whole project in phases, so that we have a little bit more specified breakdown of the costs. The other piece to that is you'll notice, I mean, that 1.345 million up to 2.382, that's a pretty big span. A lot of that is the turf, right? That's the concept of whether or not there's a palette to move forward with turf, and whether or not that happens through private fundraising, if that happens through, what your funding mechanisms are for that. But the facilities committee did charge me with going back and meeting with BCI to have a better breakdown of phasing. And then we also removed, because at one point in time, there was conversation around having turf on multiple fields. And so we've really just left the only turf focus would possibly be on that football field. Okay, so the rest would be the grass. So the softball field and the softball field would be grass, and then there would be no exploration of turf on the baseball stadium. So those are my next steps with the facilities committee, is to analyze that breakdown a little bit more, and then we'll bring that back to the whole group. So there's not a lot of action this evening. This is purely just an update, because I know this has been a topic of consideration. And I don't have a lot more to report, because the grant is still in pending process for the indoor air quality, and then we'll have to move forward at that point in
I
time.
need to throw in an opinion here.
Okay.
We've been wanting a girls softball park for a lot of time I've been on the board. And all of a sudden I see it jammed into this thing, and now we're looking at a great big project. The goal to me was to try and do something for the softball.
Okay.
Just like that, you add a turf in and you add a track in. They've been talking about the track being shot since I was a kid, or since I got on the school board. Well, guess what, it's still there and we're still using it. Is it something that can be repaired? I don't really know. But a priority that I have had, and you all know I don't have a girl in the game here, was that girl softball park.
Yep.
That's all I see here.
That message came to me very
I see that little
clear.
one blows into this great big thing, and now we have a great big thing that we're trying to figure out, when the goal, for my personal goal, was to try and solve that.
I think that's kind of where us, the facility committee, at our first meeting with Janelle and everybody got to that point.
Yep.
Like, it just we started talking about so many different things and so many different,
Yep.
and we wanted to kind of rein it back in. We know the indoor air quality is kind of next on that list. It's that project that's really been kind of hot topic as far as that, but when we started talking about our facilities here, we wanted to rein in that focus back to the softball
Yep.
field and that complex first. Understandably, we still have to have a track conversation, because whether it's needs repair or it needs a replacement, there is some level of track conversation that's gonna have to have. And then, we know it's not as easy as just saying it's gonna cost $5 for this, $5 for that, $5 for this. But phasing, I guess, is probably, we didn't say it that way in the meeting, but that really makes sense to me. How does this look in this type of phase? Because there's some construction that can be done in both aspects and save some money, for us. So how can we phase it appropriately to get us our best bang for the buck, with the idea that the softball complex is really the key to that. And if it means we don't have a ticket booth and stuff for another few years, that's what it means, but the softball complex is really,
And I will admit, phasing was my word.
Yes.
That was not, that was a word that I put in as I looked at asking them how to break it into components, because that was really the ask is, okay, so how much is it going to cost us to do these softball fields? That really was the ask, and so that was that's my word, not.
No, but
just
I like the word,
transparency,
because
but
it makes sense.
It really is. It was very clear to me after meeting with the facilities committee that our softball field those are the priorities, and that's where we start.
Cause part of it is too, like we said, if we're going to ever talk about turf, we need to talk about it if and when we replace the track and redo the football field. And if the decision's no, which, you know, who never knows, I don't know what that's gonna be, but we have to have those conversations, cause we're not gonna put in turf 5 years after we replace the track.
Right.
Like, we have to make some of those decisions, so part of it is, and it does become complicated because not everything is clear cut, like if they're coming in for construction and they're redoing the track, well, then we would need to recrown the football field. That would make sense to do it at the same time.
Yeah.
Because we would be saving
It'd be all
potentially hundreds
phased
of
in
thousands.
together.
So you can't, it's hard to just do like, what's the track, what's the recrowning the football field? But yes, we did make it really clear that that softball field has been kind of kicked down the road, and that is the highest priority, but at the same time, let's look at, so that we can start planning and phasing out, I guess, yeah, phase out doesn't make sense of the
Makes
word.
sense, yeah.
What that future will look like, and that we're trying to be fiscally responsible and looking at what are the implications as we're going in there, what would make sense to do now or later.
Yeah, I
That's
know
how we're
a lot of the
approaching it.
conversations, it comes up always, well, it's gonna cost more next year. For all my years, I don't know of anything that costs less the next year.
Right.
Does anybody, that is about the most worthless comment that I hear to justify spending a lot of extra money to do that. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, you might save some, but I don't know, how do you justify an extra $500,000 or $1 million gonna cost more next year? Well, yeah, that's just how it is.
Right.
10 years from now, none of these numbers are gonna be
Right.
in the ballpark, but
Right.
it's a reality, but I don't know that that's always justification for jumping ahead to do something that.
Yeah.
And I think it's less jumping ahead and more in taking advantage of the availability of the timing. So like you and Maggie said, we have to rip our football field up when we do our track and then recrown it, and then we're gonna consider 5 years later to put a turf in. Well, should we have considered that instead of spending the $300,000, you know?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's that level of
Yeah.
conversation, and that's why I like the term phasing versus, you know.
The other piece, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
When we think of priorities too, to me, the first priority are feet on the ground. What are the things that our kids are actually gonna use? A softball field, the kids are gonna use. Nice stands are for the fans. And if we get nice stands, that's great. It would be nice if somebody would drop us the money that Cold Spring got, you know, and we could do something like that. But our first priority should always be, what is gonna be used by the kids?
Yeah.
Softball field, a track, these are the things that the kids are using. And a ticket booth might be really nice, I would love it, I've been talking about it for 25 years here. With bathrooms and with, you know, that'd be great, but the kids don't necessarily need that.
And part of that comes down to potential Title IX though.
Yeah,
And so we do need to have a restroom, a stand of some sort, and that's gray too. I mean, we've heard different things on what that is, but so that's also what we have to keep into consideration is Title IX.
That in our community would truly appreciate restrooms
well, they would,
and a stand.
but if it comes down to one or the other, the
Yeah.
kids come first.
Yeah.
Not
I get what you're saying,
but
yes.
kids come first.
It's for the kids.
I'm gonna argue that I will watch the kids use those restrooms.
Well,
I mean, they, you know, I mean,
I'll just say this.
I see that differently than a concession stand and a ticket booth. But I think restroom facilities, when you have athletes right there, it is, they do need to have a restroom, you know. and-
restrooms at the expense of a track that maybe can't be used in 2 years, when we have kids that are on the track team.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
There are
I hear
all-
what you're saying.
We haven't had restrooms for the football field for years. We have porta potties, we use them, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, it'd be nice, I just.
Sure.
But let's pick the kid, I just wanna make sure the kids.
Sure. Yep, yep. The other piece that I'm gonna add, just as that we had some discussion about, is the fact that there is a water main and a sewer line that go underneath the football field. The city has, given us notice that they are gonna need to do something within the course of the next couple of years, to replace and repair. We've had two different estimates. One of those is, I believe I have it. One of those is about $150,000, and that would be to, essentially what they do is they line the sewer line, and then they would move the water line, so it's out from underneath the football field. The other option is to move both of them, and you would move both of them to the tune of about $240,000. So that's a project that when we do whatever we are going to do, the city would like to take advantage of that timing, so that, and that is a shared cost that they will share with us. It is not something that we'll bear by ourselves, because they will have part of that. But that is something that we need to take into account too. So when we start digging, we start doing earthwork, we start doing all of those projects. There's a necessity piece that's part of that water line, sewer line that go from, really from the school to the city street. The problem with it is there's, seepage out of the pipe, which doesn't ever sound like a good thing. I was assured that it's not like critical. You know, it's not, but they also assured me, you never know when a water main, it's not the water main that's seeping, it's the other. However, they did just assure me that, you know, it's not critical, it's not like you have to do it now, but just know that when this happens, whenever you do what you need to do, we need to repair that. And we need to line that pipe or move it altogether. So that's just something else that we need to take into consideration when we do whatever we do, because even if we put up the softball fields right away and ask them to hold off on that, you know, in 2 years or a year, they're gonna be digging up the grass that we put you know, those are just things that we wanna be mindful of, so the more we can coordinate that work, the better. So there was big discussion, lots of good work at the facilities committee, but that's more so just an update about what we kind of talked through. Though I will add that we did table the discussion around the tennis courts while I do some exploration with them about securing funds. And so that was not a discussion that was gonna move forward primarily because of the focus on making sure our softball fields are brought up to par. And if there's funding that comes along and when we have funding commitments, we'll have a different level of conversation, but until then, it was just left on as an explore right now, but not tagged on to any project. Okay. Any questions on that before I move on to the budget discussion? All right. So the budget discussion, really what I did is I asked, we kind of have 2 different scenarios to walk through, and I've done it in a 3-year cycle. So the first piece, I just want to show you where we're getting the information. So this ADM for 2021 and 2022, I need to make that bigger because my eyeballs are apparently tired this evening. All right, here we go. So so you'll see that our actuals, this is in 2021, what we had for actual students. Our grades 1 through 6, now it's a little bit too big and I can't quite see it all. Let's scale back just a little bit, there we go. So we have 440 in grades 1 through 6. 712 is 434 for our early childhood total, 895.1. So that was the 2021. Our 2022, you'll see where we are currently, 902. So we went up a couple of kids from our first day board meeting. And then we are using our projections of 2022, or the 22-23 and the 23-24 with, they're down from 902 to 893 and then staying stable 893 to 894. So these are the numbers that are used to generate our funding. So I wanted to just walk you through where those came from, okay? So then let's take a look at the first one. If where we are today with no additional funding, making the assumption that I just have to look at my title here, unappropriated.
2% formula increase, but not on operating, is that what you're trying to look at?
It doesn't, I need to look at something here.
Well, mine says, which one,
Yeah, I think I have these linked wrong. So the first one that we're gonna look
a bunch
at.
more negative numbers on it.
Yep, yes. So we're gonna look at this one
There it
first. So this is the document that is using our 902 ADMs, and then we go to 893 and then down to 893 and then 894. This is assuming, so the thing that I wanna, as we walk through this, there are some assumptions that we just have to make. We know what our funding allocation from the Department of Ed, we knew what our increase was for next year. The next two, we don't know. So we're making an assumption that this is where you see the 2% increase in the formula. That's that's about as consistent of a projection as we can make at this point in time, okay? So you'll notice, that if nothing changes, you know, at what would be likely looking at this year is a reduction of about $196,000. Next year, looking at if we have no additional increase in revenue with our reduction in students, we'd be looking at cutting approximately $399,000. And then, so that would be just on top of that previous year, and then you'd have that final year of $493,000. So clearly, this is where we sit with our numbers as they would be, with our declining from 902 to 893. And then you'll see that just that one student difference, which is why there's not, you know, that's relatively stable. But it's also making the assumption that we knew that, for example, in our expenditures for the 22-23 school year, we made some assumptions that it was approximately 3%. So that would be some groups more than that 2%, some groups less than that 2%. So it averages out. And then that same assumption was transferred forward for the 23-24 school year, okay? So that's our change in the expenditures, and then you'll see that they just don't align with the changes in the revenue, okay? So the other piece that I'll come back to now that's more promising and encouraging, and where I'm hopeful that we can land, and it's really why we're asking for the operating referendum. You'll see this first year, we still have to be mindful of what some of our reductions would need to be. Then you'll notice the second year, we start trending in the right direction again. So some of the assumptions that I think I wanna make sure that I explain to you are that one of the considerations that really has come into, you'll notice like these, the revenue and expenditure numbers, you're gonna notice are higher. Like our budget is 9 million, it's not 10 million. But the difference is we have ESSER funds that are received in and allocated, so it changes, right? So you're going to see that flow with that federal money, but that's again that's not sustainable money. It's not money it's gonna be budgeted and it's gonna be spent. So it'll change that income, but it will also change the outcome, right? Another piece to be really mindful of is that our compensatory revenue has been a significant, so when you think about the part of why we are where we are, in 21-22, for example, we had $130,000 in compensatory revenue. In 22-23, we are gonna have about $89,000. A lot of that is because we have free lunches. Okay, we are working really hard to have communication with families about the importance and why it is so necessary. We are expecting that in 23-24, we're making an assumption that there won't be free lunches any longer. And so she did take that into account when Carrie and I looked at, okay, so let's bring that back to the 21-22 revenue with compensatory aid, okay? So those are some of the things that have been taken into account as we look at where we are today. And we have kind of the dialogue and discussion of projections. I don't like getting out too much further than this because I think our data for our kids that are coming in is much less reliable. And I think you get into projections that are just kind of, they're almost fictional because there's so much fluidity in the families that age, and families aren't always registering and they're not always identifying preschool and so on. So that being said, are there any questions for me kind of about, the other piece I do wanna just remind you as we look at this is that this year we did do an estimated $400,000 in budget reductions. So that's just something else to be mindful of that brought us to this point.
When the fund balance is our reserve. And our reserve now is, help me everybody, was that 15%?
By board policy, or
Yeah.
what?
13.5.
13.5, that's what it was.
12 and a half,
13.
12 and a half. The 12 and a half is board policy.
12 and a
What we
half,
need
is
to
that
have.
where we ended up? So out of that 2 million, or, yeah, out of the, like for 2021,
Yep,
22, out of that amount comes that reserve.
that's where the board, that's the target for the board.
Yeah, and we had the reserve set up that if everything went backwards, we had about a month and a half of operating. Isn't that what it was?
Something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't very much. It wasn't like, this makes it look like we're asking for money when we have lots of money. It's not really the case.
No, that's not really the case. It is, there are, from a reserve perspective, you know, as I was visiting with Carrie and preparing this, one of the things that we did talk through is, making sure that we are, aligning once our audit is complete, coming back and comparing how does this compare with our audit to what we had projected, right? So I think that's gonna be another really important piece to come back to, so that we're not
We're not too far out of range generally.
We're really not too far out of
But
range.
it's like when you have these reports for anybody watching, there's nothing in there about the reserve. The reserve is a month and a half of operating.
Yeah,
And when we got on the board, we didn't have any reserve. I'm telling you, we were right on the bottom. We were lucky to have $80,000 or something
I
like
was gonna
that.
say right around 100,000 was all we had.
I still look back at stuff we had to do. We didn't have any choice.
no,
And then a few years later, we had people come and you talk to somebody and say, well, what do you mean you don't have this? Well, what do you mean? Well, guess what? That's what happens when you have no reserve. You end up missing somewhere, and we were
Right.
really starting to get it put back together, but that reserve, I think we need to kind of consider that zero for all of our planning, right? So if it's $1.2 million, this is $600,000 that we're talking about. And so I personally like the extra column that says what the reserve fund is.
yeah, and I
Cause
can add
anybody
that.
that's got a question, you can explain what the reserve fund is. Most people, if you tell them that's maybe about a month and a half of operating, there's not really much questions.
Right. Yep, and I can ask her to remove that and I can share this back with us for next month, and that's not a problem.
Yeah, if you don't have to remove anything.
No, like remove, so
Just add it
that,
in.
add the column to show that reserve,
Yeah, just so we
Yes, yeah.
know, you have an idea of what it is.
sure,
And I think the 3-year projection is nice.
yeah. Okay. Any other questions on those? I think I'm gonna ask, did I mess up those titles? Did I? Okay.
I do have one more question.
Yeah.
Tell me about the food. So a number of years ago, when we had the conference, one of the last couple of years, we ended up listening to a couple of schools that put free lunch in, but it's permanent. It wasn't based on a temporary. What is the cost of that?
To run a free
Yeah, you were
food
talking
program all the
about
time?
some of the free lunch things may go away at a certain point in time.
Okay, so, yep, let me tell you what's here and then so we participate in the federal food service program, so our students that are eligible, they receive a free lunch or a lunch at a reduced, they're a free or reduced, okay?
Correct.
There is a formula for state funding, it's called compensatory revenue, that school districts get based on the families that are eligible for that.
Correct.
Okay? Everybody right now is eligible, so there's no rationale, there's no reason, any family
understand that.
through 2020.
Yep, I understand that.
Okay.
So
Or 20.
what we had is, some people were there. There were people that they found in their district that didn't fill it out. Mostly because they weren't confident that the information they filled out was confidential.
Yeah, yep,
Okay, So
Yep.
I can't necessarily blame them for that. But there was a group, and they knew it didn't cover everything, but they looked at what the cost was just to provide it, do the best with making those qualifications, just provide it. But in the school, everybody got free lunch. I always thought it was kind of fascinating.
So I think the
So-
interesting piece in my mind then is that I think you would incur the cost for the lunches, right? For the families, which is,
That don't have their forms in. So if they qualify, that was a wash. It was to make free food for everybody and you just didn't worry about it, and those families that didn't wanna put it in still were getting a free lunch, but the school was paying for it.
I'd be curious how they paid for it.
It was Monaca or Sabik, I get those two towns mixed up.
It was somewhere up there.
And I'd have to go back in my notes, but they did something where they didn't have to pay for it at all somehow. They got some government deal, I don't know how they did it.
No, it was very
They
interesting.
worked hard at getting something,
Yeah, they
so
did.
they provide free lunches, I don't think it was costing them anything.
It didn't cost the school district
No.
anything? Yeah, I've not heard of that program. I can read, I'll have to look into it.
I can go through some of my
I'd have
notes,
to
I
go back
might
my
still
notes.
have something on it. It was very interesting listening to him. We had so many things going on at the time. I don't know necessarily we followed up, except maybe talked about it at a board meeting.
Sure, okay.
Do
Yeah.
we know, how have our numbers been on the applications filled out last year and this year as compared to previous years? Is that number way down?
I don't think, I can't respond without, I'd have to
Yeah,
look,
it'd
cause
be
I
just
can look into that though.
Intrigued to know
Yeah.
that, and then in situations of programs like that, if parents and families know that it's gonna be free anyways, again, do you have
They're not
a
gonna
big
fill it out.
reduction
They're
in
not gonna,
not filling out the form, at which then the district is not able to take advantage of the compensatory fund, so
yeah,
it's just,
yeah.
I'd rather see free lunches for everybody than free money, but on the flip side, it's just interesting to know those numbers, that now with free lunches, are our numbers way down
Yeah.
on those
Well,
applications?
based on our revenue, I know our numbers are down.
Yeah.
But I don't know where they are today in comparison to where they were at the beginning of the school year and where they were at this point last year. But I do know that there's been a significant, there's been a significant ask by many of our school staff about, have you filled out your forms, here they are, how can we help? I mean, it's a really prominent topic of conversation, especially at the start of the school year. But, the other piece that we are, and I've seen it in some of the newsletters, just reminders to families that if something changes in their financial status throughout the school year, they can fill that out again, and they might be eligible where they weren't prior. Sometimes, some of our seasonal workers that maybe have a layoff in the winter, that would be a substantial change for them, so making sure that they remember that, oh, we could do this again. So we are trying to, feels like you're kind of peppering them with, did you fill out your form, did you fill out your form, fill out your form, but that's why, I mean.
He said they did that, like,
Yeah.
unbelievable amount. But you kinda look at it, just because somebody has a budget, that means that maybe they shouldn't have free food for the kids, doesn't mean the kids aren't coming to school hungry.
Right, yep,
You could have a mom and dad both leaving the house at 6, coming back at 6 at night, and the kids are going to school hungry.
Yeah.
I just don't, I think it deserves some looking into.
But the numbers are based on how many people fill out the form, not how many people are accepted, right?
Right.
there's a completion, there's also an eligibility perspective that comes with whether they receive the funds or not. So it's twofold.
But I mean, there should be an encouragement for everybody to fill it out, even if they know they aren't gonna get free.
Yes,
Yep.
There's an
Yes.
advantage for us to get them to
There
fill it
was
out.
an advantage
Even
for
though
that.
they are gonna say, well, I make $1 million a year, why would I fill it out? But,
Yeah, but then it comes to the confidentiality thing.
no.
So you gotta figure out what that process is too.
Right.
You don't necessarily want somebody's financial stuff floating around in a high school or,
Yeah, and that, we've really, tried hard to communicate to families that this is super confidential. I mean, I don't know who receives what. There's one person in our organization that has access to that information, and it's not me. You know, I mean, I think but I also recognize that that's not reassuring to some families, so.
No,
you know,
but
we
I
just
don't
try.
know that we've ever heard that before either.
Oh,
I personally didn't even know who had access to that stuff.
yep,
So, that's kind of what,
yeah,
you're speaking to the public today on
yeah.
some of that, you know, it doesn't hurt to tell people that this just doesn't go anywhere. Cause then it goes back to your point, and you talked about the meeting, is to get these people to fill it out.
Yeah, it's important.
I think a lot of people would share it as long as it didn't go all over everywhere.
All right, so I will make a note, please do note, I did mix up the linking, the with operating and without the referendum. And so for people that are viewing too, the numbers that are red with the, greater need for reduction is what's gonna happen if we are not able to pass the operating referendum. And I will relink those this evening and get that taken care of, so I apologize. Now it's over to you, Thomas.
No, my time to shine. Request for information. Anybody have any information or anything upcoming that they wanna make sure we hit the board meetings or talk about here?
I just have one thing, summer seems like it's a long ways off, but I think Max gave us a wonderful opportunity and gift when he mentioned that he was resigning next summer. So I'm hoping that administration is not gonna wait till the end, but that cause there's, so often when somebody resigns, you got a month to figure it out. We got a long time, and this is a time to think outside the box and figure out, we've got a position in the school that maybe could look differently and do some more. So I'm just, hopefully, I'm assuming that you all are looking at that and
Yeah.
starting to plan for it. So,
Yep, thank you. Yep, we are.
yeah.
And the climate committee meets pretty soon?
Yes.
See, when we started that, it started over the bullying policy and some of
Okay.
that. It graduated into the climate committee. And I think last year, we were just struggling to keep everything going. And everybody watched it close as we could, but it just wasn't in the numbers. We're kind of back on track again.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious that they're gonna meet sometime because we have policies in place and we need to be careful of that.
Yep, and we, yes, the climate committee, so we had that preliminarily scheduled, and then there are committee members that need to be, there's community members, there's not just, so we are establishing the right members to be part of that committee. And I believe that it's the same, it's the policy, it's Maggie, Cheryl, and Rick, I believe, that we have as board members on that committee, so yes. And that's also an evening meeting, primarily for community members, I believe, to be part of, so, yes.
Is there a place in the school where we can find job descriptions for the different jobs?
That's a great question that I'm also trying to see a little bit. I'm not exactly sure where they live all the time, but if there's one that you have in mind, I know I can track it down and get that to you, or to whomever.
Well, I've just been curious what a dean of students does at a high school level.
Sure.
I mean, it's a foreign body to me.
Sure.
There was a lot of discussion about that, just about time Matt left. So there might be something somewhere.
Okay, I'll look.
Cause that was when last week we discussed on that, wasn't it?
And was there one approved prior? Or is that maybe?
I don't know, I never saw one.
I don't think there
I
ever
don't
was
think
one.
there ever was one that I know of.
Okay,
The position was put in, but we never really heard what the job description was.
okay, so can you just maybe, I'm gonna, have job descriptions historically come to the board for approval? Prior, is that how that has
I
historically
think
been
that's
done?
administrative, but the
Yes.
hire comes to us for approval.
But not the
But not the job
Position
description
description.
itself, but
Okay,
right, I
It's
mean,
usually after the fact though. That comes to us, isn't it?
Not necessarily.
not necessarily.
But I was just curious what the job
Like
is.
when people are hired, you know, on our agenda, there's never a position description with it. Is there?
Yeah, sometimes.
So maybe it's not inconsistent, it's probably just
No.
inconsistent on
Yeah.
why and
Not
when.
consistent.
Well, we had a lot of moving positions
Sure.
all over the place. We didn't always have as much of that. And that's where the questions came, but Matt usually got most of that stuff fairly quickly. My guess is it's there.
Yeah.
But it was not having to do with staff. It was in more administration, buildings. You probably got an idea of what we wanted you to do. It followed that.
Sure, sure. I'll do some looking to see what we have, what we don't have, if there's things that are missing, and try to do some cataloging of that too, so. I know that's one of the things that I'm looking for is one of I was also looking for one of our food service position job descriptions, and I too am trying to find where that was, so. It's,
They must be, cause I'm looking where they're posted. Oh, I guess that's just the application.
yeah,
I would think there'd be inventory.
so I will do some analysis of that and see where that's at.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have something for you guys. NHS had just started meeting regularly again at this time of just seniors. Applications go out to juniors at the end of this quarter. But it came to my attention that a lot of seniors would like to know the status of parking privileges for senior NHS members. And I know that the bus is parked where it used to be, but they were wondering if like there was somewhere up front that they could have privilege for them. So just something to think about. I was told it's a very big issue for some of them.
Okay, I will look into that and I'll visit with Mr. Orline and we'll see, and who would be the best contact to get in touch with?
Myself and Mrs. Wars.
Okay. Can do.
Thank you.
David, you probably have a pretty good handle on what was going on in that.
Well, the NHS parking privileges were on the west side,
Yeah.
which is currently most
West.
of the visitor and handicap parking.
Yeah,
They're kind of, last year, the last couple of years with the construction, that that side became a necessity for visitors and some staff parking.
Busing is on this side.
Yeah, and now with the busing there,
Call just now.
yep.
it still is visitor and handicap parking and
Yes.
employee parking at that point.
It's just me. Okay.
Okay, anything else? With none, we'll adjourn the meeting. 7:47.